24 at 6 p.m. If everyone could please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Susan, would you please do a roll call?
Sure. LaRose, present. Layton.
Present.
Walsh.
Present.
Andres.
Present.
Reardon. Etmer.
Present.
Stasinski.
Present.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Moving on to the agenda. If everyone could please take a look at it and review it for any conflict of interest. Also, you'll see there's the budget report, and then there's also an application for geocaching, which I think we were looking at adding that to the agenda. Since this is a special meeting, we do need everyone present to attach that. So as of now, this will be just an attachment, and we can't attach it to this agenda unless Garrison shows up. So we'll have to talk about that at the next meeting or potentially with the subcommittee. So.
So are we able to just add it for discussion then?
No,
No,
It's just, we can't
Because
take action on it.
we have to
can't take
make,
any action. You can't amend
We-
the agenda at all.
The agenda's the agenda. But we could put it on next month.
For next month's, yep.
Mhm.
Well, I'll move to approve the agenda.
Support.
All right. Approval of agenda made by Walsh, supported by LaRose. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right, moving on to public comment. It looks like we do have some public. If you guys are willing or wanting to come up and say anything, now's your chance.
My name is Peter Hoyt. My address is 5266 East AB Avenue, Richland, Michigan, 49048. If you're not familiar, that's Kalamazoo.
Thank you.
Yes.
I drove up today hoping that my application for the geocache would be on your agenda. Made a 3-hour drive because I was here last Monday and the meeting got canceled. So hoping to have the opportunity to discuss to you guys today. I drove up today to talk about this family geocache. I think you've got it there in front of you, though we can't discuss it. You'll see that our family's had a geocache in that park for 20 years. You'll see that that park came into the township's way because the family wanted the township to have access for the people to get to that park. I was told that this is the only park that you guys have access to the bay with. And that's only because my family didn't take the offer to take a free condo next door for life and insisted on giving the park to the township. The story goes that the township couldn't take the park for free. Some law prevented a free gift of property like that. So the family worked with, I believe it was the DNR Oil and Minerals Fund, and sold it to, I believe, the DNR or the county through that fund somehow. And then eventually that property got transferred to you guys. So my family still lives in this town. I have aunt, uncle, nephew, niece, several cousins, grandma, grandpa. They all reside in Traverse City and have most of their lives. And when you see, she's a remarkable woman, Jen, a pioneer for your community. And that cache was put by her son to recognize her. They grew up in that area. Unfortunately, he died 3 years ago. But I'm sorry, 2 years ago. And in planning for that, though, that rotten man got me addicted to geocaching in 2003. He just didn't know it at the time. We did a family reunion, as we always did on River Road. We've done family reunions in Traverse City since I've been in the family. It started before I got in the family, actually. And he took me under his wing, showed me some geocaching. I was working nights, had a brand new baby, running a police dog. Ain't nobody got time for that kind of stuff. So I put it off until I got hurt. Got into geocaching in 2012. We went and did a bunch of fun road trips together and stuff around Traverse City all the time. And then his wife died. He slowed down. He realized he wasn't going to be able to maintain his caches. I come up pretty regularly to visit with family, 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm able to do the maintenance on those caches. So I did that for a little bit. And then he said it was time for him to archive them or let me adopt them. He had the choice whether he wanted to archive them or adopt them. And realizing that these caches are old. And this sport just started in 2000 through Bill Clinton flipping a blue switch and allowing everybody to be able to use GPSs. And 2 days after that happened, some guy out in Oregon put out the first geocache, put it up on a board, people found it, and it started from there. Dick started in 2003, so he's one of the pioneers. This cache is from 2005. You won't find very many of those caches around the state. You won't find many of those caches around the world. And I don't know if you know this or not, but there are 2 caches in northern Michigan that people travel from around the world to visit. Power Island, and then a little one just a little further to the east in the woods called 612. People literally travel around the world to get that. My little cache there in Jen's Park that I adopted still gets over 24, 25 visits a year. Most of your caches, after they've been out for 10 years, kind of everybody in the community's found them, no one goes and visits them. But because so many people come up here to get those 2 historic caches, they see this one as so close, and they come and stop at it as well, because it's right along their path, or close enough that they're willing to drive. Well, heck, they're willing to drive 30, 40 miles to go between the 2 caches that are up here, and they're literally flying in from all over the country, all over the world. So it's important to the geocaching community that this cache be kept alive. It's important to our family because it represents our family heritage and fair property that we donated to the community, that we maintain and look after this cache. And our family visits this park yearly. We come up and have a family reunion, and somebody from that group is always at that park every year, if not multiple parts of the family. I wasn't given an opportunity to know this was coming until, through a miscommunication, the township never notified me. It was only when Rusty invoked the landowner's property and archived my cache that I became involved in this on September 5th. The problem being is that I have a 30-day timetable to have this cache unarchived. And only Beth or someone from the township can take care of that for me right now. So although it didn't make the last meeting, it's not going to make this meeting, my time is still ticking, and there is no exception for the time. So I'm up against a wall. I need an answer by October 1st so that Rusty has time to take action, or the cache goes away forever. And the community and the family loses a part of our history and our valued traditions, because Uncle Dick was rotten. He got a lot of people into geocaching. There's just a few of us that stuck around and did it for a little longer than 2 or 3 years, but there's still some that occasionally geocache. I just geocache every day, just about. And that's all because Uncle Dick got me into this and introduced me to Jen through this park and through this sport. So thank you for letting me have my probably overtime, but I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for me about this geocaching?
No, I think got a nice attachment here. I think I'm to the understanding of what's going on.
Right.
Does anyone else have?
I could
I
vouch for
just
the
have-
calls for Power Island. We get a lot of calls. And
I just have a comment. I don't know if I can say it, but I'll just say it. Can we not just have a special meeting before our next meeting, just to
Yeah.
make a decision on
I-
this?
That's what's going to have to happen. Because I know there was a few of us that were on the subcommittee,
Right.
so.
Happy to drive back up for that if you just let me know when it is.
Okay.
I mean, it's that important that, I had 4 or 5 members of the family that wanted to come join me tonight, and I thought, that might be too much. Let's just start here one at a time and see if we can't get it, again, if we'd had this conversation before it got archived, I'm willing to work with the township. I've explained that to Beth. You can change everything. I'm going to keep the name. I'll add to the cache page. I don't know if anybody knows about cache page building. I've built 300 caches. I've worked with other government agents, other townships and things to get caches published. I'm working with the state parks right now to get 2 caches published for a geo tour that's coming. That's going to be 45 caches throughout the state. 2 of them are going to be mine. I'm going to be working with the state specifically on everything like that. I'm happy to build the cache page to what you're liking. All I ask is that it not leave the families, not leave my account.
What's the deadline?
October
October
5th. It gets, actually, October 4th is really my deadline because he posted it on he gave me 30 days from he gave me 30 days from September 5th. So that's where we're at. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here talking to you guys tonight, because it's something that's very important to our family.
That's great. I think that's
you.
wonderful. Family's important.
I'm completely confused.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm just trying to think if there's, so if I understand
Can't we
it,
go
Commissioner
for-
Reardon was here, we'd be able to change the agenda.
Right.
Yes.
Was there something, a rule change of the Open Meetings Act earlier this year that would allow for remote access?
No, not to vote. No,
Not to vote at all? I thought that was a change,
not that I'm aware of.
considered an accommodation or something.
Oh, yeah,
But
no.
we could put a special meeting and maybe have it Monday, the 30th,
Well, I'm just,
or any time this week.
Is that 30 days set in stone? He can't get an
Yes.
extension? That's set
It
in
sounds
stone?
like they're pretty cut and dry.
There was no
Is there a possibility here that he can archive it, and then if they choose to archive it, he could archive it again? And I'm happy to do that.
If you want to archive it, and then you choose to archive it again, that will be me. I will do that for you. That's my agreement to you. If we can't come to an agreement to make things work, I will archive it and you can have it. But if we can come to an agreement, and I guarantee you, I'll be able to get better cache page than whoever you think's building your cache page, because I teach geocaching, I teach page building at the Michigan Geocaching Organization's Winter Social. They have me teach people how to build a better page. So I guarantee you I can build you a better page than the person you think's gonna build your page.
Well, I think it's important if your family, started it and you want to continue that.
That's what I really hope for.
Really, family's important.
Beth, I don't remember, I mean, we passed like rules or the procedure or something like that, that says that Parks Commission's the one that has to approve any geocache.
They're in the geocaching guidelines.
That's what I'm trying to find, the guidelines.
Yeah, I can pull them up real quick. Oh, you know what? I just feel like,
How many days do we need to announce a special meeting?
18 hours.
It's not letting me into the shared drive right now, of course.
Well, I guess we can't take action on it tonight because it's not on the agenda. We can take a look and see what the approval process is based on the guidelines. Because I was trying to find those because I don't have it right here.
I've got them now and can get to them.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys want to move on with your agenda
Yeah.
because you can't do anything tonight anyways.
Yep, I think we need to schedule that special meeting during this meeting, or we,
We could do an upcoming meeting dates. You could talk about it if you need to have a special meeting.
okay, all right, yeah, we'll figure out a date for that, during that upcoming, yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Peter.
Do you think it's something that he has to be in person for?
I
I don't know
wouldn't
if
think
it's saving your
so.
trip.
No, I mean, we have a pretty,
important that I'll drive 4 hours.
yeah,
Just let me know.
yeah.
I will be.
We'll let you know, but we do have a nice attachment here with a lot of the same information that you discussed tonight, so. But,
It is reviewed by the geocache subcommittee and then forwarded as a recommendation to the Parks Commission. So again, though, as Peter mentioned, you know, I can email Rusty and have him unarchive it. First of all, I was under the impression that it was under 30 days notice to archive it. And Peter was letting me know that it is 30 days, it's archived and then unarchived if you change something within 30 days. So I'm happy to have him unarchive it. And if you choose to still archive it, we can either initiate that, or Peter has said that he would initiate that. So those, you don't need to do a special meeting necessarily. You can still do this at your October meeting.
okay,
So that would just be a way to kind of buy us a little more time.
okay. All right, we'll figure out an upcoming meeting, during the upcoming meeting dates. All right, if there's no more public comment at this time, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes from our August 19th, 2024 regular meeting.
I just was wondering, did we ever mention in the last meeting about the community garden? Because when we talked about in there, all the different parks and such, I don't think that we said anything about the community garden for budgeting. But just bringing that to someone's attention. Does anyone else remember?
I thought we talked about some of it.
We have, would that be something that falls under capital outlay food security?
Well, I think you're looking at the minutes right now, right? You're
Yeah.
just wondering, I mean, I don't know that you need to call it out in your minutes if you talked about it or you didn't talk about it, because you're gonna talk about your budget again tonight to
Okay.
actually do it. So, if you don't recall if you did or not,
I think, yeah.
Oh, it's noted here in 9C, it mentions food security.
Okay, so it's under that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, under the capital
Food
outlay,
security
food
and
security,
farmers
we put
market. Okay.
a large
And I make a
amount.
motion to approve the minutes from the regular township, or Parks Commission meeting that was dated August 19th, as it has been presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by LaRose and support by Hetmer for the approval of the minutes for August 19th, 2024 regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. All right. Correspondences to our email since our last meeting. There was an email from Beth about the court repairs, getting some quotes on that. There was an email that was sent to me from someone from the Land Conservancy looking for a rec plan, and he couldn't find it on the website. I do not know what the update is on that, if that's findable on the website yet. He could only find the old rec plan, and I could not find that either, so we were looking into that. There was a resident brought up the basketball hoops and looking at some improvements there, which I know we've discussed that, and we let that resident know that we are in plans with doing something there. I know Beth reached out to individuals about a little library volunteers. Not sure if we heard back from any of those individuals. And then also there was a Jen's Park update with some images on stuff that's going on there. I think that was all, unless someone else seen something that I did not. So,
Nope, and that basketball hoop email is in your packet.
yes, yes,
Yeah, I like
yeah,
the idea of an adjustable,
yeah.
because it's something I've heard before too, for the in-town parks. But I don't know exactly how that would look exactly for those courts, but maybe the long, one on each end. I know they're pretty pricey, but, if we could find a vendor that will install it too, that would be probably worth it.
Well, what if we had, so there's 6 on the short length, just have permanent shorter ones, so that you can do full court, normal, but then put
Like
a
the half
short-
court.
Yeah, or like half
on each
court.
side.
Yeah, less running space for littles as well.
I mean, we could probably, carry this on in the budget discussion.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think that's a good spot for that. All right, if there's nothing else on correspondences, we'll move on to number 8, reports, treasurer's report. We do not have Garrison here.
It is in your packet.
Yeah, if there's any questions, the budget report is in our packet. And we will be talking more about the budget here shortly. All right, if there's no questions, we'll move on to staff report, 8B.
I guess I actually don't have anything. You did see the email, so now there's an autoresponder when somebody writes to Parks, to you, so that they know that you got their email and they don't need to individually send it to you or anything like that, to use that. Do you have anything, staff?
I do a couple of things. First, Jen's Park, we're closing out that contract with the Bash Excavating, who had the contract for that. It's all complete, so that's a good thing. We did have some tree removal done there. We had a willow tree that was, it was on our property, the township property, and it was bending over onto North Shore Inn. And so they asked that the branches be cut. When Dan was looking at that, he also noticed some other poplars, a couple dead trees in there. So they were going to address all of that. As they did, they made them a nice path through the park that I'm not particularly thrilled with. So you recall about 4 or 5 years ago, we had something similar happen with a different tree cutter who was there for one of the condo associations along that strip. And they, kind of fixed that, and that's where we decided to do the sidewalk, which we could allow vendors to get back through there. So I think Dan and I talked last week, and we'll try to make lemonade out of lemons. Obviously, one of the things that was part of the project at Jen's was planting a tree where the previous tree company had created a little bit of a path, so we planted a evergreen there. So I think what will be a good, to mitigate that is we'll plant a couple more of a good, species that isn't all the same species, right? So you don't want one to get a disease and then it spreads to all the others. So we'll work with planning and zoning and the species list, the appropriate species list, and pick things out that will help to buffer that from the road. And I think actually in the end, it'll be a bit better because it'll be an evergreen there instead of like popples and that sort of thing, which don't kind of offer the same type of screening. On the other side, one thing that you might want to think about is where there's some space behind the second picnic pad. So as you're walking out there, you come to the first picnic pad, and then you walk over to the second one. You can see that space where they came through with the tree clearing right there. And I think the trees that we add should be like from the middle ground to toward the front, toward the parking lot. The part that's right near that parking pad, you might think about putting like a nice bench swing or something. It has a really nice view shed from there. It's right between the grill and the picnic table, and I think it would be a nice way to utilize that space. And we would just put down some like EWF under it so that it also chokes out any poison ivy that's trying to grow over that way. So I think if we do those two things, it'll help mitigate that. Let's see. Also regarding Jen's, Peter filled you in on a lot of the conversation. So what precipitated that was, you know that we had the caches put together, and Zach went out and found places to put the caches. I was online getting them logged in with the coordinates and seeing if to review the locations. And I looked up to see how they review the locations, and there's a regional cacher that's kind of over the area that reviews them. So I had been at Jen's Park about 5 or 6 months ago, before, I don't know, before you even had your geocaching account for the township, and had noticed that there was, I'd looked at all of the parks to see where there were caches, and at Jen's I went to look at the one that was there. And so I got online just with my own personal account and contacted the way that I thought was to contact them. I don't know, I'll have to look up and see what the history on that is. But apparently it didn't get to Peter clearly and said, hey, you know, this is on township property and we're having a new policy and would like to send you that, or I don't know exactly how I wrote it. I never heard anything back, and since it looked like a pretty old little cache and, you know, was, yeah, looked pretty old, I thought, well, it might just be an abandoned one. I had no idea. So as I was getting the other ones ready to review, when I reached out to the regional cacher, I said, hey, Parks Commission is doing caches in all of their parks. The only one that we seem to have an issue with is there's this older cache in a park, and I tried to reach the person, I can't reach them. You know, what can we do about that? Because there's a minimal distance that can be between caches. So if there's one there, you can't have another one there. And he said, well, you can do one of two things. You can either archive it, or you can ask them to sign it over. And I said, okay. And he said, well, he said in his email, I will contact them and, you know, talk with them about that, and they'll get in touch with you. So Peter did reach out to me. I talked with him, and I said, you know, I think, you know, especially I didn't even know the history. I didn't know why it was called Jen's Park, and I never even knew anyone who did know the history. So personally, I thought that was kind of sad not to know the history. So I was really excited about getting the history, and I would like to include that in the cache itself, and likely on the page, you know, allude to it, but in the cache have like something that's durable and maintenance, for, you know, weatherproof, so that people, when they visit that cache, can actually know what about it was. And the program he's referring to is the DNR Trust Fund, which you guys are familiar with, and we have purchased property before. I'm not aware of any law against giving it away, or the township accepting property. I'm not aware of that.
It might be just under the charter laws or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody can gift you something for sure, because they can do a discount sale. So I don't know what the difference theoretically would be, huh?
That had been around the early 90s.
What, when you can discount a
I
sale?
mean, that's when the property trains.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a reason. I'm just saying I have never heard that in working with the DNR Trust Fund.
But I look back at who was the supervisor at that point, too.
But so what they likely did, and I think I remember seeing it actually, and we could even look it up in the, but what they likely did was what we did with the Holiday Woodlands Natural Preserve 501c3, which is they offer it at a discounted sale. And so what happens is your market price is determined, and what they're willing to sell it at is determined, and the difference is used as the township's match. So the township may not have had to come up with any money, but the DNR matches that money and pays the property owner, and then that is deeded to the township through that process. So anyway, so that's how that works. But at any rate, as I explained to you earlier, I thought that cash was on hold to be archived rather than archived to be reversed if other information. So as we've discussed, we'll unarchive it, and then you can make your decision at your regular time frame. With respect to Arbutus, speaking of the DNR Trust Fund, I don't know if I shared with you, but after the DNR Trust Fund was here, the grant coordinator assigned to our area went out to Arbutus just after that meeting and texted me. She was thrilled with the park. And today, I was on a conference call with her on a different project, and she mentioned, again, I thanked her again for going out to the park and sending that nice text. And she said, I sat there, returned my phone calls, enjoyed the view. She said so many people were using the park, and she said it was a joy to watch them using the park. So one of the things I mentioned to her, I was talking with Wade Trim, and we're ready to finalize the documents and close out that grant. So that was a $300,000 grant with a $300,000 match. We've met the match requirements, and even though the contract will soon to be closed out with the contractor, that's not part of the grant closure. We can still close that grant.
Did you ask insurance about a ladder?
I did not ask insurance about a ladder. Onto the kayak? Okay. And what Corey's referring to is kayak launch, is that she's noticing a lot of people are using the kayak launch to have some fun on. And was wondering if there's a way to get up on the kayak launch from the water. So we'll check that out. We've noticed it's getting a lot of use too, because we've had to bolt some things down and do some things. But that's good. The park's getting well utilized, so that's exactly what you wanted. And Grace McDonald, we did have some requests for nets, that some of the nets were getting a little bit worn, but still usable for this season, I think. So I think everybody agreed that we would order the nets and they'll be ready for next season. So we've done that, ordered 2 new tennis nets and 4 transient nets for pickleball, portable pickleball nets. So those are ordered. With respect to the basketball hoops at Grace McDonald, one thing to know, and I recall this from earlier research, those ones are difficult to retrofit, because if you ever look, the posts actually go through the fencing rather than the post behind the fencing and arcing over or just inside, but they actually go through and kind of have a different type of attachment mechanism than most do. So it'll be a little bit of retrofitting that when we decide what to put there. But we do have a recommendation from the type of boards, the material from someone who has dealt with those for years and years and years. And I think that's about it for staff report on the parks. Unless you have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
And then Zach, do you want to mention the geocache year update on that too here, under staff reports?
Oh, yeah, so the geocaches that were already prepared, I went and placed those, and then we're just waiting for approval still from, I would believe, Rusty, the local.
I'll submit the review
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so, Yep, that's where we're at that. There's one in Grace, one in Killingsworth, Holiday Woodlands, Arbutus 5, and Pine Grove. Yeah. So, once they're reviewed, they'll be on the geocache website, so we'll have to all go find them.
I was just thinking where at Pine Grove you could have possibly hidden one, but then I was like, I'll just have to go look.
Yeah. It's a pretty good spot. So, but yeah, there's not many, but
I'm excited
I
to
thought it
look.
was a pretty good spot. So, yeah, I guess it was fun doing that too, so. Gets you out in the parks and go to spots that you may not think about going to, so. All right, well, that's all that I have on that. Move on to business before the Parks Commission, 9A, the budget for year 2025. And as last meeting, we did discuss quite a bit on the budget and came up with some rough numbers. We were waiting from Beth to get some updates on some stuff for us, so I guess, Beth, you want to?
Let's pull the screen back. Okay, so you'll recall that there were a lot of things that were pretty much givens in the last meeting, which were basically operational budget type things, such as your board meeting fees, your additional special meetings, your payroll expenses, and so forth. Then we came down and we looked at your supplies. Sam has gone through and taken a look at the farmer's market next year. That brings in roughly $4,300, I believe, in fees. And we're looking at about $5,500 minimally to operate, which does not include Sam's time. But this does include a marginal amount for some marketing, very marginal. Way more marginal than what Sam would like. But we're going to take this as a beginning place. We can always request an amendment in the future if we need to. But this would have some minimum marketing, some minimal materials, but most importantly, it includes somebody to be at the market for, let's see, it was 1:30 to, it was 6 hours a day. On Thursdays for the roughly 24 markets that we have in a year. So we factored in $20 an hour, took in payroll expenses, and that number is included in that $5,500 there. So there's some personnel, because obviously that's a lot of time that we spend, that Sam spends right now out there at the farmer's market, that is really downtime. I mean, you can take your laptop out there, but it's not exactly great to facilitate a lot of work, and you're talking with a lot of people and so forth. So be looking either for somebody to fill that role, and if we do that, we'll probably break that out of that line item eventually and put it into some type of a 703, which is like a personnel or time. But for now, that's a placeholder in there. There's a possibility we may look at another agency like Seeds to come in and staff that. And then if that's much different in cost, then we'll bring that forward to you. But right now, we're just putting it as a $20 an hour part-time position for a couple hours a week, basically. The little libraries have a couple little libraries in there, similar to this year. Hope you've liked the new ones. There's a new one at Grace right now. So it's and then we have one that's ready to be installed in the next couple weeks over at our, no, at Jen's Park, actually. Let's see. And we'll go to, we've got a nominal amount in there. You really traditionally do not have any legal expense or attorney, but we pop that in there just in case you have any questions that we need reviewed. If you'll recall, the attorney engineer grant fees, that was lowered due to the fact that we'll be staffing it in-house. That $10,000 for the contract services relates to the question that you had on Hammond Planning. And really, Sarah, if you have any adjustments too, please, yell. So we were just looking for some kind of spitball numbers. And this one for Hammond Planning was to kind of do some renderings, not the design engineering, but some renderings, looking at that property and what plans would be, that sort of thing, doing a lot of what Beckett and Rader does or Sarah does, what Claire has done, which you've seen done in other parks with the community garden, for example. So there's $10,000 in there for that. Holiday Woodlands Natural Area, somewhat similar. There's some trail planning in there, so that one's just a little bit more. You've got the Tart Trail agreement, that was in there last time. And then the other two items with Jen's Park, there were quite a few things that I was looking at from your last conversation to get some general ideas. The dog park, the pavilion, the court repairs and cleaning, the basketball hoops, the cornhole, and then ADA concrete, just in general, outside of the cornhole area, but getting concrete to the play areas, getting it over to the baseball area, back to the other field area. So for the dog park, those are, even if you utilize something that's already there and existing, which is great and saves you, it still is expensive. And when you add these things up, it's expensive. When you take a look at Arbutus and Jen's, some of those items do get fairly expensive. So on the fencing, I estimated about $20,000 for the fencing because I used a per foot and a gauge on what the fencing would generally roughly be, and then multiplied it by the footage out there and then bumped it quite a bit up because you're going to have gates and so forth. Then, for example, the dog faucets that you have that have the bowl on the bottom, you'll see at the dog parks, and I think the better ones to get have something at the top too for owners, as well. But those are pretty pricey. I mean, they range anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a piece. And so then as well, when you're looking at installation. So if you have 3 dog pads, there's 3 faucets, that's $15,000 right there. So you can see how this really starts to add up when you add the dog waste signs and posts, the trash cans that go with them, made out of the recycled content, signage, benches. Benches run, roughly about $2,000 a piece. So you're having benches at 3 places. The accessibility concrete, because I'm assuming you would want the concrete going back into this area. And then the amenities, if you wanted to put any dog amenities in there that you see in those park equipment catalogs, if you wanted to have.
Exercise equipment, you mean?
Their agility or something like that.
Yeah, and have it so the owner can partake in that too.
Yeah, they do, yeah. And if you want, some parks don't have them at all, and some parks have them. So, and even if you do have them, you can scale to what you have them to a few pieces, to a full, practice place if you do agility or something like that. I wouldn't know because my dog never listens to me. But, so roughly I put that dog park at about 85,000,
How much then were you factoring for the agility? How much did you? put
10
in
to
there?
20.
A little low.
Well, I have some of the other ones bumped up a little bit, like the dog waste I put at 5K. I don't think it'd be quite 5K. Signage at 2K, I don't think it'd be quite 2. So because I had bumped those up a little, I did look at some of the stuff in the catalogs and not knowing how much or how little you guys would want to do. You know, you could drop that out, or you could say, that's not quite enough. But I figured, based on what I saw in the catalogs, 10 to 20 would generally get some things in there and some nice things in there. Would it get a full course? Maybe, maybe not. Those were probably like a little 20 to 25, but would it get some nice pieces in for sure?
Yeah, that's something we can do in phases too, and always add stuff. We don't have to do it all at
Did you say 85,000?
2025.
Total.
Estimate,
Total.
just for the dog?
So the dog park was 85, the pavilion, the parts that I was looking at here are the heaters, the curtains, and then restaining, the needs to just be cleaned and restained, and then the fascia around the roof, put in. I was looking at about 50,000 for that. Between, like I said, those curtains, we'd have several of those. These are general guesses, so these are not, I have not talked with, say, for example, a vendor out of a company, because trust me, once I call them with a couple questions, they call me back like 10 times over the next 2 months. So I instead chose to look at catalogs and look online at some of the prices and so forth. So I'm just trying to get you some general numbers to get there.
Did you have a ADA pathway guesstimate for Grace?
Outside of the, I have a general placeholder, I was getting to that down at the bottom, about 50,000.
Okay.
Which I think is probably a little low, but I also have some accessibility concrete in that 85 for the dog park, so.
Okay, okay.
Not that you couldn't jump ahead, that's not what I meant to say, I was just meant, I didn't want you to
I
think.
thought I heard you say something and I didn't.
50 was not the only, there was also
Okay.
50 plus 20 out of the dog park, so. And I was talking with Garth, our engineer, this afternoon, and he thinks I'm a little low on concrete prices, because prices for projects have been just coming in, as you can imagine, and we have limited vendors in this area, more for asphalt than for other stuff, but, yeah. Let's see. So there was the dog park, 85, the pavilion at 50, the court repairs and cleaning, you know, that was very expensive. This is, I think, hopefully, a very high number. I'm hoping it's more like 6, but I put in 10.
Yeah, that might even be low.
The basketball hoops, when you look at the basketball net, the pole and the whole system, and I'm not sure if we'll need the poles, because like I said, we have a tough system to retrofit. So I wanted to be sure that we factored in the pole if we can't retrofit it. They're at like 2,500 each, so, let me think. So I put 20,000 in there, because remember, all of this stuff takes shipping too, and this is not light stuff. So, I mean, shipping on some stuff can cost us $500. And the cornhole, I looked up, phase 1 was about $100,000. So all told, those things that I've just mentioned to you come up to $315,000. Because I knew I had bumped up on a little, I put about $300,000 placeholder in there for Grace. Also knowing that there's a lot of projects there, and that's a lot of time, and not sure, you know, if we'll get them all. So I rounded down, put in the 300 number, and then also want you to kind of take a look at those 6 projects and really say, what's the priority? What is the top priority? I mean, love to get them all done for you. Then let's see, we went on to Oh, okay, and then Arbutus Phase 2, I had looked, the type of play equipment structure where it's kind of like what you're used to, kind of like at Grace, right? We have two of them, right? They're all together incorporated. The smaller ones like that are about 50 grand a pop. So I don't know if that's what you're envisioning, or more like
Arbutus?
yeah. Or,
There's not a lot of room though.
well, these are the smaller ones, not nearly as big as the Grace one. So they're more like Pine Grove.
Oh, okay.
So, but you could also spend money doing little single things, like you can do a modern version of the merry-go-round, and you can do that, that's inclusive as well. So you can wheel right onto it, and all of the mechanics are underground, basically, and that's why they're safer.
I liked, just because I'm excited about the playground equipment, because at the Civic Center, when they redid that, theirs over there, I mean, even I could get in the merry-go-round, and it was fun, and it's individual items. It sort of is like that darker, it's a lighter tan, so it sort of would color coordinate with the light colors that are already over there are at Arbutus, rather than a big plastic thing.
No, these were, so when I say like something like Pine Grove, it doesn't have to be like that.
Okay.
All of these companies have different lines and different features. So you can do one, you can go literally in and search like playground equipment, you know, natural or nature, and you can find some with some dark greens or some leaves or some, you can find boats that are done in like primary colors, but you can also find boats that are done in like tans with a little blue or something like that. So the reason I said boats is because I saw one that was like a sailboat thing or something like that. But you can get them in all, I wouldn't suggest to you putting something out there that stands in contrast to the nice elements that you have going on out there. But again, there is a lot of natural features. Now, over at the Conservation District, they have an all-natural playground. Theirs is literally made out of natural materials, which is probably more maintenance than we want to do, but you can get some maintenance free of the same similar look. But even if you buy the individual pieces, you're still going to end up at that 50 easily, because your merry-go-round is probably 15 or so. It's just expensive stuff.
They even had a chair over there, it was just like a saucer top, but it would move you around and you didn't have to do anything. I mean, they just had some unique, different than I've ever seen, and a zip line. Just saying.
Well, Garth
Just
is,
saying.
Zip line, that's pretty cool.
Garth is gonna.
I don't know how much that was, but that was so much fun.
Garth is, if you remember, they did a rendering of some things that incorporated the natural features over at Arbutus really early on. And I think at that time it was a little bit much. You guys are like, oof, this is a bit much. We'll dust that off and see how much that is. Maybe you choose to do something like that, maybe not. That was a slide feature and so forth, which are pretty popular. It's nice to get something that's popular through all ages. You know, we had a public member here several meetings ago that suggested, you know, swings that are of use for all ages, and we do look for that. So a small example of this is at Arbutus, at Grace McDonald Park, we put in that one swing that's meant for an adult that is swinging with a small child, or two children or something like that. Now, that's not exactly the bench type swing she was talking about, but there are swings like that that it can incorporate different ages and inclusiveness and so forth. But again, those are design elements you'll end up picking closer to the project. These are just trying to get you some numbers for budgeting purposes. When I talked with Garth and I mentioned about 100,000, he thought that was a little light. He felt more like 125 or 150, so I put the 125 in there. But my staff will tell you I traditionally go on the lower side, and they sometimes aren't appreciative of that.
It comes back around.
It does, and, but I always say, we can always bring that back to boards and validate why we're asking for that, so. So that's a little bit of what's in there. Now, you do have the printout that shows a lot of zeros. You'll notice some of our line items are just repetitive, right? So we have like 2 Jens Park capital outlays, and I don't know what the history of that is. It probably was, it could have been that one was hidden from somebody's screen because it was inactive, and they said, oh, we need another one, so then one was created or something, but
We don't have anything under parkland acquisition.
I don't have anything under parkland acquisition, and I will tell you why. Absolutely happy to put that in there at your direction. But I responded to an email recently, and I realized, let me grab my phone if I can, and just pull up some of the numbers. So in about the past 5 years, there have been over 1,000 acres conserved in East Bay Township that we have either been fundamentally at the root of or tangentially involved with and supportive of. So I'll go through those with you. That is the Holiday Woodlands Natural Area, 145 acres. You guys are very well familiar with that because we've taken ownership of that as the township. The Brown Bridge Quiet Area Expansion was 528 acres. That was the city of Traverse City using their Brown Bridge Trust Fund to purchase a neighboring 520 acres to their Brown Bridge Quiet Area. We supported that DNR Trust Fund with support and comments at the DNR Trust Fund meetings. Camp Graylick, the county purchase is 200 acres. And the township, while we're not a part of that, we did help facilitate some conversations, just linking people, which is some of what we do. And the Ridge is 210 acres. That was just purchased and conserved by the Regional Land Conservancy. We assisted the Land Conservancy with technical support prior to and after their purchase and letting them know what that property is zoned for, how it can and cannot be used, whether it's under private ownership or their ownership, or how they would use it and so forth. So if you add those up, that's over 1,000 acres. Now, I'm not suggesting that the township not have any funds at its discretion, but you do also have some fund balance money. I think there's like 60-some thousand in just an acquisition line item as well. When those line items are changed around, you could add to that at that point too. So I don't know if you necessarily need to put any in the budget, so to speak. You could determine what is the balance that we would like to have for a potential acquisition. And also remember too, a budget for a potential acquisition, typically, from what I've seen, we go through something like the DNR Trust Fund, which is a match, not the total purchase price. So, are there any other blank ones or questions from, this is your, let me just reiterate, I mean, I think you know this, but this is your budget. I was just facilitating putting these in for your decision-making purposes, so happy to change anything around.
All right, thank you, Beth. So last time, we pretty much just went line by line and determined what we thought was what we wanted to go with for each line item. And Beth did fill in some of the blanks for us with some of her research on Grace McDonald and Arbutus. Number 5. I guess, do we want to just go line by line again, or
That worked.
did anyone have issues with the, I think our two biggest ones we need to do is Grace McDonald and Arbutus 5, but we'll go start at the top and make sure we cover everything, so, all right. So the board meeting fees, looks like we had requested 12,200. I would believe that looks pretty good, judging by 2024. It's projected. Any input?
I agree.
Okay. 0 for recording secretary. The meeting recording 0, which forget what those are covered under. Is that just hourly township fund?
The recording secretary, we've been utilizing whoever is here assisting
Yeah.
as support staff and just generating the minutes from there or doing them internally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep. And the meeting recording is actually paid through our charter franchise fee, and that's in different line items that we have a contractual relationship with Leah to
Okay.
do.
Looks like for the special meetings, in 2024, we had $1,000 in there. Currently, we're at 851 there, and then for 2025, it looks like we have 1,050 in there. So that's in line with our previous year's budget. Does anyone have any input on that one?
Would that change with the farmer's market? Or is that gonna all be in the,
For special meetings?
with the,
No, that's in the
oh,
food
special
security
meetings? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Yeah, so it looks like we've been in line with our special meetings budget. So I would assume we're probably okay with 1,050 there. I think that, what's the payroll and expenses line item? Is that, it's the same 1,050 requested? It'd be 710.000. Can I get some clarification on what that payroll?
Yep, that is just .0765, so that's just your payroll expenses.
Okay.
And the wages. If you look down lower on that page, you'll see it there on the left.
Okay. I think we're probably good there with that. Supplies, looks like we've budgeted 1,500 for 2024. We're requesting the same amount there. Those would be supplies for our farmer's market, our winter sledding party, and our summer game night. Is there any input on that one? Or are we good with 1,500?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Moving on to the supplies, food security incubator, had 10,000 for 2024, and
Does
To
that
get-
include the personnel? That's the one I was trying to
Yeah.
ask about.
So
Duh.
it does. Right now, the way our line items are done, in other departments, you can't see it here because we just have the parks, but it's also, like a line item per position. What we really want to try to get to is like a full-time personnel line item and a part-time. But right now, regardless of which way you do it, there isn't that 703 line item for that person. So I just chose to put it underneath that 730 for the farmer's market for right now.
That
As we
makes sense.
determine whether it ends up being a contract, with Seeds, if it were a contract with Seeds, it could very well potentially stay in one of those similar line items. But if it's a direct part-time person that works for us, we'll move it up into the 703 activity level.
Okay, so that full 5,500 would be covering the person?
It's actually about like 4,500. There's
Okay.
still some marginal, actually, I think it's like 3,500. There's still some marginal advertising
Yeah,
and supplies
marketing,
in
okay.
there. Yep.
Okay. So that 5,500 would cover someone's time and then also some materials for marketing. Does anyone have any input on that one? Or are we good with 5,500?
Good.
All right. Looks like for little libraries, we had $2,000 in 2024, and then we're also requesting another $2,000 for replacing, updating, maintenance of our little libraries. Is everyone good with
Yep.
doing another $2,000 there?
Mr. Chair, can I
Yes.
interject one thing about the
Yep.
little libraries?
Yep.
I did forget to mention to you earlier, you asked about the little libraries.
Oh, yeah.
So we do have two people who are interested. One lives in the south part of the township, one lives in the north part of the township, which works perfect. We also have a paramedic who's interested. And so what we're going to do is the paramedic, who is right around the corner from where all the supplies are kept, will manage the supplies and can drop some books. And then we're going to use the two volunteers to monitor and check those libraries and let her know when things need to be addressed. So
Okay.
we should have that covered coming up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so looks like we have 3 potentially good volunteers to help us with the libraries, but yeah, we have $2,000 in there for updating and maintaining and purchasing new.
Yeah.
Going forward, aren't we gonna just pretty much gonna be purchasing new ones and not trying to
Yeah, I mean,
update the old ones because they're falling apart and stuff?
Yeah, so we've replaced 3 right now.
Yeah.
And they're not showing up in your activity to date because the way they were purchased and paid for hasn't been logged in through AP yet. But we've spent, I figured it up when I was doing this, I want to say it's about 4,000 so far this year on between those. And then we have yet to replace Pine Grove, Killingsworth. I think that's
In
it.
the township one?
And the township one. So you have about three more out there, and it's running about, is it running about, let's say $1,000 a little library. 800 sticking in my mind for some things, but I don't think that that's quite all of it.
Refresh my memory, the family that purchased one to donate in memory of somebody, where did that one end up?
That one's at Arbutus.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, yep.
all right. Yeah, so $2,000 would get us close to buying and do a little bit of installation for 2 more libraries for next year unless they go up in price. But we can always amend and, yeah, figure that out. So if everyone's cool with $2,000.
2,000 trees up
All right. Looks like 2024 for legal expense and attorney, we had 500. We're requesting 500 again. I don't think we've ever really had to utilize that, but probably a good idea to keep 500 in that. Moving on to
there. Just out of curiosity, what kind of a scenario would allow for that?
Sure. One review, if you had a question, you don't allow hunting in parks. If there was somebody who challenged you or had a question on that, if you needed to do any research and say, you know, by what everything townships do, right, are based on statute, as opposed to like cities and villages, which have their charter documents. So if you had any questions on anything that you're doing, you could say, well, we need to have them research that through statute or something. So your park rules, even your bylaws could have gone through them. things like that.
Does anyone have any input on that, or are we good with keeping the 500?
Fine, it's fine.
Okay. Attorney engineering grant fees, looks like 2024, we had 30,000. And this year, looks like we got 12 grand requested for that.
And I would like to clarify, that number went down because we're doing more in-house work? Is that what I
Yeah,
recall?
we don't currently have any big projects where we're requesting drawings and
Right, some of it's projects.
grant fees
And
and,
some of it's Sam.
yeah,
Okay,
So instead of paying for my contract, you
Mhm.
have staff.
yeah,
okay.
so. I guess 12 grand looks good to me, unless anyone else has. All right. The contract services, we didn't have any for 2024. That, we have 10 grand in there.
That was for
For-
Hammond Park.
Oh, yes, yes, okay. So, as our last meeting, in my notes, it looks like we talked about putting 10 grand in there for some planning for Hammond Park, just some conceptual, kind of get started with that project, since there's no master plan or anything for that park. It's just vacant property with a township water tower on there, so let's can keep 10 grand in there to get some planning started, or if people think we need more or less. All right. All right, there's nothing more on that. We'll leave 10 grand in there, and that will give us some starting funds. Holiday Woodlands Natural Area, we had 20 grand for 2024. Looks like we're requesting 15,000 in there. That would help us with getting some trails marked and just some trail planning and whatnot.
I have a note from last month that says we have some grant funds. We have some grant funds assigned to Holiday Woodlands from Rotary. Does anyone know off the top of their head how much that is?
That's going to be used by the end of the year, so. we'll go to 25.
Oh, okay, thank you. Do we need to, I'm sorry, this is a little bit off topic from budget, but do we need to make a master plan for the park before we build trails, or are we okay to just make it, just start working on it?
For Holiday Woodlands.
Uh-huh.
Isn't there like,
It's a little bit of both. So right now, we're doing community engagement to do some conceptual planning, and then we'll go into more in-depth kind of layout and planning of the trails, and then the building and constructing of it.
When are we going to need to start budgeting for those activities?
So you'll start, the design, more design will be next year, and then you'll probably do construction the following year.
Okay.
One of the things you might consider doing, and that DNR has encouraged you to do this, is to look at a DNR trust fund for that. They like to fund parks that they've helped with the acquisition. So this wouldn't be ready to necessarily do for next April, I don't believe. But the following April, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so we're still evolving Holiday Woodlands and doing community engagement. 15,000 would be
Yeah,
some money in there
that's-
for whatever we need to do there. So if everyone's good with that, or if we need more, or,
No,
okay. Maintenance and repair, we didn't have anything in there, and we aren't requesting any, which I think that comes out of our township maintenance and repair. The food security incubator, is that refund?
That's for the SNAP payments.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. The Tart Trail maintenance agreement, we've done $5,000. Previous years, we're requesting $5,000 again. I believe we should keep requesting the $5,000 for 2025. I don't think they've come with a new proposal of increasing that. So I think we're good with
What was
five.
it for?
Like the snow.
No. What did it end up being for 2024 season? Or, excuse me, 2023, right? 2023, 24.
Looks like we had $5,000 for
$5,000.
20.
Last year, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
was spent?
Mhm.
Oh, activity, 5,000, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, because it wasn't a really crazy winter.
It's just a flat fee, 5,000.
Oh, is it going to stay like that? Okay,
That's what the last agreement was for.
okay.
Which I think it's probably a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah.
With the amount of mileage of Tart Trail we have through the township. Right. The distribution of grant proceeds, we had 12,781 in 2023, but nothing last year. I think that's depending on when and if we do get a grant. Park land acquisition, we did 25,000 last year. And I guess we can discuss, do we want to keep putting 25,000 in to stay consistent, or do we want to come up with a plan of how much money we're looking to save for acquisition, or we want to,
I'm just trying to think,
because,
25,000 is not gonna do a whole lot for
No.
us. But,
no.
Well, you're
But
doing
if
it
it rolls
every year
into
to
fund
build it.
balance.
Well, we're supposed to be building it.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
building it up for a while.
Yeah.
And then we used a
Dipped
big
into
chunk of
it.
it,
But
yeah.
it's not a dedicated fund, it's just fund balance. Fund balance can be used for anything. So,
Right.
if we're trying to build it up, we should probably have it set aside in a separate fund. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know
because
that
otherwise, all
budget
these
software
years
is
we're
limited.
just rotating it, and
So
it never gains.
So I think if there is a land acquisition potential, and we can get some grant or help from other entities, we would have to then figure out how to come up with a match. So I don't know if that's a better way of trying to acquire property.
I mean, you have like, if you're doing an acquisition through a grant, you're not gonna probably have a grant come through next year anyways.
Yeah.
We started kind of looking at, wait until you actually get the grant to put it in that line item for that. And then the township board also, has their fund balance to do what they'd like to with that. So if there's a project that comes up and there's interest from Parks Commission and the township board, you could always change that.
Yeah.
If there was something fast that was happening. And then also kind of looking at, your bottom line for the whole year versus kind of where you've been in the past and what you've spent, like, we're putting quite a bit more, when I look at it in Grace McDonald this year, so maybe this year, because we're a little bit heavier there, maybe it doesn't make sense to line item for that.
Yeah.
Well, we can always find an excuse every year to,
Right,
really.
right.
I guess it would be nice if we could set aside not to touch it, so it can start building. Because we just never know, and yes, there's been a lot of land in East Bay that has been, in the makings of preserving, so if we could do it, I see that that might be a good thing to do, and to have something like that in our back pocket, so when the time does come, because it will come, that we can move on something.
So-
And right now, we're talking 25,000, so,
And I'm okay with budgeting it, just, if the plan is to let it, accrue
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and we had been, it was growing, and then Holiday needed a
Holiday.
boost.
Yeah.
I mean, Holiday was only, what, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
That was last year.
I don't think it's ever been above 50.
Yes.
I'm just saying it should be separated in the fund.
There is some separated in the fund balance. The meeting last week, or last month, rather, do you still have that packet pulled up? It had the fund balance page on there, so you can dedicate it over, and I guess that's kind of what I'm asking is like, what do you want to reach? Like, what's the amount that you want to reach? Because if you're not there yet, well, then yes, it makes sense to put that in the budget. If you are there, it may not make sense to continue to put that in the budget.
$69,824.75.
Plus, you do have some other line items too that you can flip into that if you choose. But what would be the amount you are seeking to be at, to have?
Yeah,
We're at 69 even
Yeah.
though we gave some to Woodland? I thought Woodland wiped it out.
no,
It's got 69.
This, yeah, this is dated July 31st, 2024.
yeah.
2 million? I mean, you said set a goal.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, 1.
1 million in how many years?
40. I guess I won't be around then.
So if 25 is the, I'm sorry, is it 20 or 25?
25.
Is the amount that we have been putting
So
in,
say 500,000.
have we only then contributed for, oh, I guess it's left over. Is this money in these funds, is it invested in any way? Yeah.
But that, the amount stays stagnant. I mean, the interest does not get spread to all of those. The interest goes into the general fund balance.
Like for the township? Ah.
So how much money would you like to put in here?
Well,
Well, in 8 years,
Oh, we
Which
started
is
8 years
doable.
ago.
is 200,000. So maybe start at 200,000.
yeah, if you start at 200,000, and.
Even 100,000 is better than 25,000.
You're talking 200,000 for,
But we have 69.
Next year.
Well, that's even better.
Yeah.
269,000.
Ellie, see the other line items, we have the Grace McDonald, and we haven't pulled from those.
Oh, and these are, I recall something about these ones, we had a discussion about if we need, we talked about this last meeting, and if we needed to pull this money for a park purchase, we could vote on it and say that, okay, good, glad I'm remembering this. So those funds have, the Grace McDonald Fund has 30K, and, I'm so sorry, 110. Arbutus 5 has 30. So that's another 140, plus 69.
Plus there's Trails Capital, which is 40.
Yeah, so we're already at our theoretical 200, if you add all those up,
Yeah,
roughly.
280. Bottom of that page.
Do you guys want to put in some, but just not the whole 25?
For next year, you mean?
Yeah.
I guess what, in the next 5 years, what do you want to see that balance to be? And then, depending on that,
So that 400,000 might be reachable in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you get a match, there comes the million.
Well,
So in the next 5 years, I'm sorry, Susan, you want to see
400?
400,000.
Right, now that we
Okay.
know that we could somehow get to the 200,000 through
What-
diversion
or- yeah.
ways. So that would be 25,000 for 8 years, which is 200,000, right?
Oh, you just want an additional 200,000 from what's already there.
Yes.
Okay. over the next 5 years. Does anybody else on the Parks Commission have any thoughts about 200,000 to add to the existing 200,000, so you'd have 400 in 5 years? How do you?
Just trying to
Well, my
picture what
only,
might come up that would be of interest.
Yeah, that's why it's there, because we can't picture what's gonna come up until it's there.
also, I mean, that other, anything aside from the 69 that's already in that one fund is, we might use that for what it's actually earmarked for.
Well, yeah, I'd be on board going 25,000.
I mean, that's
And
why we,
keep it.
Anybody else? Yeah, just,
Keeping up?
25 next year?
does anybody else feel that way, or?
yeah. I mean,
I
if we,
just-
wa-
I can see a lot of, like,
If it comes to the board, or the trustees, when they're going through the budget, if they have to cut somewhere, that could be like the first spot they could cut.
I will tell them that.
Did you hear
Yeah.
that, guys? You didn't hear that.
Well, I mean, we could.
No, I hear you, I
make
hear you,
it a
yeah.
year without.
yeah,
I mean, it could be anything, you guys. It could be farmland in township. It could also be on the water, you know, some home or two homes or whatever, that it'd be nice to have that
We've been down
ability.
that road, lost those bids.
Yeah, there you go. So,
I mean, it is in our action plan to, you know, acquire property, and so.
and that's a good point.
Yep.
But we can keep budgeting some funds away, but also there's other avenues too that we can always amend and talk with.
No, I just, it feels more secure if we knew
Yeah.
that, hey, that 25's there, we don't touch that.
Yeah.
Not unless an emergency.
But if we
And
don't,
it's always nice to
yeah.
have that there.
But if we
Sort of like a
don't
cushion.
have that, we can always go to
But
the
like I
board for
say,
an
I'm
opportunity,
always on
yeah.
the safer than the.
Well, let's put it back in and
This
see
out.
how it plays out.
Okay.
Everybody's good with 25 then?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
Okay. If we're all good there, we'll move on. Park construction fund, 0 and 0, which, we'll figure that out if we do have any construction going on. John's Park capital outlay, looks like we had $3,916 in there, which we did do some work at, Jen, so.
That's actually getting moved to your 973,752.
Oh,
There's 2 gens.
yeah,
Oh.
gotcha, okay.
72, you said?
And those ever
Yeah.
go away? When you have to? Or is it like, almost like earth shattering to have that happen?
didn't we talk about this, and it was gonna be
Yeah.
a whole thing, and just
Okay.
whole
she's
thing.
cringing. Okay, just saying.
Yeah,
All right, we can move
I
on.
missed the asterisk there with the notes. Okay. The capital outlay, 1,400,
That's another one that.
yeah,
Oh, gosh. Let me just take a look at that one for you real quick. I gotta have this up here. So I was thinking that one went somewhere else too, but let me see.
I bet you it did.
I don't see,
It
Oh,
says it will be moved to
That's going into the
Killingsworth.
farmer's market. Can you
Okay.
see that that was- Yeah, so that one will be going to 0.
Okay.
But your farmer's market will be going up.
okay,
Whoa, what's the number?
1,400. The 973.000, there's 1,400 in there.
The note says 8,500 is Killingsworth amenities.
yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Well, and
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry, I'm on board, okay.
Question for you. You had previously voted out of this year's budget to do some tables and trash
Oh, yeah.
cans. So I've been looking at the vendors and looking at ordering those and the delivery on them, as well as the shipping, which always kills me. Do you have a preference whether those are in this year or whether they get delivered for the spring?
Is
Where-
it saving money? Or
Where
not?
at, which park?
Killingsworth.
It's really indifferent.
Did you say Killingsworth?
Oh, it was for Killingsworth?
It was
Where the
for a
picnic
few, yeah.
tables,
Yeah.
And at Grace
Grace.
also,
And at
wasn't
Grace,
it?
picnic tables and trash cans.
We should get it now if we have the budget for it for this year.
Okay, you'd still like.
I mean, that's my only
Okay.
opinion, just get it done.
It's just, well, they,
Yeah, let's
Same.
order, yeah, let's do it now, because next year they might be like, oh, we're out, or
Okay,
they're
well-
back ordered, or.
Trash cans would jump up to $4,000.
Right.
They might.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. That helps. I just, had been working with, looking at the companies and going back and forth with some shipping and stuff, and I was like, well, at this point, it's, mid-September, so, but no problem.
I mean, as long as we get them in,
Yeah.
I guess we may or may not install them this year, but as long as we have them in possession.
I don't think what we have, the snow will harm either, so.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yep. All right. Capital outlay, Pines Park, we have 0 for 2024 and 0 for 2025. Pines Park is not in our action plan for the near future, so unless someone,
Did we talk about revisiting that master plan just to
Yeah,
update it? and
yeah.
look at it?
I mean, we can bring it up to talk business for 2025. But don't necessarily, it's hard to budget if we haven't, it's not in our action plan, so, but we can start talking about it. Capital outlay for bathrooms, we got 0 there. I don't know, we do have,
We don't
Bet-
normally
yeah.
break them out.
Yeah, yeah.
By part.
yeah, so, is that one that we can just remove?
Well, normally you can just hit and print none with 0.
Okay,
And all of
Okay.
these are gonna go away, but I wanted you to be able to see everything. that was
Everything.
There,
yeah,
just for your reference on
yeah.
all of it.
For the vaulted toilets and stuff like that, is there a company that empties those?
That would be
It's under maintenance.
maintenance.
Speaking of bathrooms, we have Killingsworth bathroom as a priority number 7.
For,
Didn't you talk about not doing those? I mean, they are in the parks plan. but
yeah, well,
For a couple
yeah.
of years.
What did we say?
I have 2026 for Killingsworth Park bathroom on the action plan, so,
It just says it'll need to be designed and engineered, so that's all.
Yeah.
time consuming.
I thought we were gonna just do it like the others, so we could bypass that.
I guess for our action plan year, it's for 2026,
Yep, I see it now.
so,
Well, do you
Um,
want to work on the engineering? I mean, Corey is right, if you want to actually
Yeah.
construct in
2020.
26.
yeah,
You have to plan and pay in 25.
yeah.
Oh, and it does say grants, trust fund, and that takes time to apply for.
Although, I mean, you do have a lot of other projects you're working on too, so you
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of need to pick and choose what you'd like to,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Our rustic gem that is Killingsworth.
I love Killingsworth.
Ready to-
I know that's been a lot of discussion, is keeping it rustic, so,
Homeostasis.
I think unless people really want to plan on building something in 2026, I think we just,
Well, we
Leave.
have a grant fees line with some money in it. If we're gonna just go the route of just doing like grant applications and such, would that cover
Yeah.
what activity we would need to do in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could use, if you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna take the bathrooms we put in at Grace and use the same thing, that's enough information for your grant application, and then if we get approved for it, then you can full-on engineer it and go that process too. So, if you're comfortable with that, because has that been the discussion, kind of using Grace as an example, or?
Well, I don't
Jen's
think
or-
we need to at Killings. I think we can get
Oh.
away with one toilet.
Just once?
yeah.
And we like the design
Of
at
Beauty
number
Spot.
5 better than Grace.
Okay. So I think we have some drawings that can give examples when we're applying for grants.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we don't need to go
That's-
full on.
Or
into-
No,
just take it
that's-
from our abuse 5 to save some money on
Yeah.
that, only make it one stop,
Yep,
Yeah.
that works.
Perfect.
and then we can
Thanks.
bypass that.
Great.
Yeah, okay. So,
Although,
Yes.
water. Could be an issue.
From a buildings and grounds standpoint and a cost standpoint, you know, just some things to ponder while you're making your decision is you would need a well. You, if you're putting, remember, those buildings are not inexpensive. Grace was 150 to 200,000. Arbutus was 250, 275 for the bathroom
Building.
alone, for the bathroom alone. So, you know, one thing you can think about is, you know, all of the utilities. Remember, when you put in something like Arbutus, that has a utility room in there. There's heat, there's pumps, there's, you know, all of that that goes with it, and maintaining it. So, you know, that's all fine if that's what you want to do, but remember that those decisions come with implications, right? And, you know, there are other options too. There are companies that do vaults or, I mean, sure you have experience with different ones. I know Peninsula's used some different ones. Is that an option too? It's certainly less expensive. What do your park goers want, need, expect? All of those things kind of go into that. But do remember that there are those choices.
Maybe a starting point is maybe we need to collect some data on how often that park is used. Some trail counters or something like that.
I mean, I was there today, there was one car in the parking lot, and the restroom looked to be really good shape, so.
The one time that I saw multiple cars there was when we all went together,
Yeah, so,
which was lovely.
it's an action item, but if we come across an application for a grant and we have some ideas, I think we have a good plan in place if the right opportunity comes around for next year. Jen's Park, we had 100,000 in there. We just almost completed fully with the project there, so I do not believe we need to budget anything for Jen's Park for next year. If everyone's good with that. Move on to the Grace McDonald Park, which we've done 50,000 in 2024. We're still waiting on some tables, picnic tables, benches, trash cans, etc. for there. Based on Beth's research and the $300,000 rough estimate for all the projects we were looking at doing there, which is a lot there. With that number, are we wanting to try to do all those projects in
I
2025?
think 300's great. Might be a little short, but the heaters for out there, was that gonna be this year, or is this factored in? It's factored into the 300,000,
Right.
right?
I think, yeah, with the,
Okay, and next year is the fiscal year of January 2025?
Right.
Okay, we could still get them, just in time for the sledding party, maybe.
yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
I
your
feel
guide was
comfortable
telling
with
her
the
time.
300, how it was broken down. I mean, I think it's kind of on the light side, but,
Yeah, so,
and actually, our requested is pretty much, you know, close to what we're sort of projecting for spend on this year. A little over, but not drastic. So I think the numbers look good there.
So the M-Parks conference is coming in 2025. Are we active members through East Bay still for that? And were you guys showing
So
interest
we're
in
not, I
going.
think last year it was in Kalamazoo or something, I can't recall.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit further, so I knew I wasn't going, I didn't, and I knew you were going through the county, I believe, so. So I didn't do an M Parks membership this time. I just saw that it was gonna be in Grand Traverse County last week. So, I can do that, I can look up and,
I think it'd be worth being membership. I mean, I think whoever ends up being the primary staff, for this board might, it might be worthy for them to have a
Yeah.
certificate.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I feel so silly. What is this?
oh, M Parks is, the Michigan Park and Rec Association.
Uh-huh.
And there, I think you guys might remember me, I went going to the conference like a couple years ago. John Chase, it was the year he started, because I happened to meet him at one of the workshops. But what am I looking for here? I'm on calendar, that's not what I wanted to be on. Let me just go to M Parks. There we go. Membership health, that's not exactly what I'm looking for.
At the very least, it's a good way to get some CEUs. If you guys do that or not. But
It's a very good conference. They do, oh, there it is. Sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. Become a member.
I mean, they have a exhibit hall where they build like playground, they'll bring in all kinds of playground
neat.
equipment. You could see it, firsthand, and dog park stuff, it's like a shop all kind of things.
So with your employees, you get up to 10 board or commission members.
Oh.
So you're looking at 525 to 775. So that's where you would be at for membership. And then you would have, as commissioners, you would be able to attend.
I think personally, just being in the Parks and Rec field, I think it's a good thing to be part of, be part of a bigger network.
You can see new things that are out there.
I think it'd be a
that-
good standard moving forward, just for any Parks Commission to be involved with that.
I will probably have Sam go, as well as, depending on the workshops that they schedule when they put that out, may have Dan go, and I may go as well. So we might have up to 3 staff going. And normally, those are actually paid, our attendance was actually paid out of our department budgets, but the general membership would be paid out of the Parks Commission. So we can definitely,
Do we have to add that number then?
yeah, we could
onto
put
that?
like $1,000 in for M Parks membership. And one thing I did forget to put in here, and I apologize, guys, although I did remember about it, but when I was putting the numbers in, I forgot to. Let me pull up this one file for you. Oh, I think I had it under trails. Oh, under Parks Commission trails. This is the signage when I talked with the Conservation District quite some time ago, that they can potentially provide. Now, it was in like, I think it was just right at the beginning of COVID when I talked with Steve, and so that's probably why everything got slid to the background, but
Now he's retired.
is he still kind of there?
So, actually, very exciting news on that front. His official successor's first day was today.
Nice.
So that was absolutely delightful. Her name is Sarah Vaughn, and that was great. But Steve is assisting with her onboarding.
Terrific. Well, the The top picture is a picture of kind of what you would have as your trail map. That's what they do as an example of the trail map. This one right here is an example of the markers that they would have, which I think are pretty fabulous.
I like that.
They use a shape. You see on top of the three, they use a shape rather than a color, which helps for colorblind inclusivity on the trails. And then they have all the information below. So, I think that that would be a great thing. The only thing I would probably ask them is they have any maintenance-free options, because you know I kind of love the maintenance-free options so much. So, I did not put anything in for the trail markers across the parks. So if you want to do that, we should probably do that. I would, you know, Ally or Sarah, I would really look to you guys to see if you had any idea on the numbers, or Ryan.
Did you,
For stuff
No.
like this, I mean,
okay, I can follow
it's
up
like
with
really
somebody
bigger
else
signage.
and see,
It's
maybe like,
Crazy numbers.
especially if it's like for Brown Bridge, I'll maybe talk to like Reb and see if he's got that, because I'm sure he had like a quote that would be good for like
With-
the
I think we
advisory.
had Seeds do some trail stuff like this, so.
Did they?
John, my boss, would probably have some good information on that. I've been out of the loop the last couple of months, so,
Okay.
but.
And then as well with a bigger trail map like that at the trail heads and the parking lot areas.
We just had a bunch of signage done on Power Island, so I imagine that this is all very fresh for John. Like, he has it probably very accessible. So,
But I would want to see if we could put in even a placeholder for you. My guess would, if I had to put out a guess, I would say 10 to 15,000.
For some reason, I had the number 50,000 in my head.
How much, what?
For some reason, I had the number 50,000 in my head.
50,000? But you had, guys had probably a lot more. Or was it for one
Power
park?
Island. Yeah, it's just for Power Island.
50 grand for Power Island?
Signage to have it made and then the labor to put them, you know.
Posters.
Well, now they also had to boat out to there.
Yeah, but we have a vote for that.
I mean, it's an
Sorry,
ongoing
it's not
action
fresh in my
item,
head.
so.
I might be able to look it up, but actually, no, I can't.
If you
It's probably about $500, that
If-
one that you're showing, at least, 500 to 600, just that one, 500.
For the,
Between the post and then the signage, which, the map itself has probably a special polyurethane type finish to it, it's on a special material like metal. I mean, the list probably goes on.
It is like a pretty sturdy thing.
Yeah,
Would-
but I mean, that could be like right at a trailhead where you gotta figure out which way you're going, but then along the way, those are probably a
This is
little
what
less.
you do there.
Yeah.
I think if we did probably 20,000, at least that'd be at least a start.
I mean, it's an ongoing action item, so we're not talking every park we could do.
Yeah, like one park at a
What?
time.
It'd be nice to do Killingsworth, that's for sure. You get lost out there.
Oh, golly gosh, I had that issue at Holiday Woodlands. It's lovely, but oh my, so many social trails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so how does everybody feel about 20,000 as a
Yeah,
placeholder?
I
for
think,
trails?
I think we should have a
Yeah.
line item
Just in a
for
general, not a specific park at this
Yeah.
moment, but to put it in as a
something to
general.
get started for,
There goes our 25,000. They'll snatch that.
yeah.
So if they're end up cutting the budget, this could be number 2.
Do that as number one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, oops,
We'll
sorry.
never get our money saved for acquisitions.
Yeah, okay, so if, put 20,000 to trail stuff, trail markers, signage. I guess we're still on Grace McDonald with the 300,000
Oh, yeah.
requested, which
I'm
is a
fine with
lot
that
of,
one.
Yeah,
there's a lot of projects going on there.
yeah, I think Beth did a very good job
Yeah,
of
very good.
explaining that. And then also,
Well,
there's just the reality of, will we actually get everything done this year?
Well, going to the action plan that we have, for For 2024, it was the warming hut, which we did not receive any grants to do that, but we're also
Yeah.
working with the existing pavilion to make it into warming hut, so we're kind of checking the box off there. And then, I guess with some of the projects going on there with the phase one of the cornhole project, that's covering ADA accessibility. If we do go forward with the field redevelopment for the dog park, that covered some ADA stuff there. The one thing in the action plan we did have for 2027 was Grace McDonald soccer field redevelopment. So we're kind of moving further ahead than our action plan with that, which would be, I think,
That's fine.
it's the soccer, yeah, which we've all determined, I'm just bringing it up that it's,
Didn't we say that money could go for dog park or soccer field?
well, it's soccer field redevelopment, so that we're
However we decide
redeveloping,
to redevelop.
we're redeveloping a soccer field into a dog park. But I think, if I remember right, that was about $85,000 to $100,000.
I'm just wondering, it'd be better to, emphasize it as a recreation field or something, so it doesn't end up, somebody thinking we're developing a soccer field and have high hopes for it and then find out it turns into a dog park or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe nobody's watching this meeting and will care, so.
Well, a dog park can be temporary there too, I
True.
think, there was talk about over at the Hammond Park at one time, but this isn't low-hanging fruit for now.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have any good suggestions on how they might finally decide dog park at Grace, dog park at Hammond?
I think that, not really. I mean, I think that I think the fields, there is a need for the fields. But I know that you've been looking to try to see what kind of needs there are or organizations for it. Everybody wants a dog park though, right? That was Garrison's that's what he ran on as his dog park. So, we can't let him fail. So, but I think, at Grace McDonald, it's a good opportunity to get it in there, see what kind of use there is, and then see if you do hear that there's a demand for a field to be there. You have to redo the surface, if you want to make it a soccer field again, right? So if we use it for a dog park for 3 years, 6 years, 10 years, we're going to be doing the Hammond planning probably, next year and the following year. So we may have some more input on, no, that should be out there.
Yeah. It could be a good testing spot for a dog park.
Right.
So-
Yeah, you already have the families out there, so we might as well bring the dog along.
Right.
So-
Yeah, and I know there's been some desire to kind of spread it out a little bit too. Like, you always talk about Grace and everything's happening at Grace and trying to kind of diversify some of your parks. And we can have that discussion when we're talking about Hammond Park to see, what makes sense for that as well. But I guess I'm kind of hoping that somebody's gonna come out of the woodwork once you put in a dog park and say, why'd you do that? We needed, we needed that, and then that'll help answer your question, but.
I don't know, I still go back to how many years have we been sitting here going, does anybody use that park? And you're not getting calls, I mean, so, for like Pop Warner or soccer or rugby, I know you say, people are always calling the county and asking about it, but
Yeah,
I
I think
don't
a lot of,
anybody's calling here.
yeah, a lot of people I don't think know about it. I had a conversation with somebody and he's like, I didn't even know that it was there, and he lived in East Bay down there, type of thing. And he has a soccer team, and I didn't know. I have a different lease somewhere else because I didn't know it was there. So,
Well, there's not really like a reservation process for it or anything, so a lot of times people probably just overlook it and just not think that it's something that, rentable or usable.
Do you think location has something to do with it too? And that, they call the Civic Center because it's kind of smack dab in the middle of town and there are other amenities for families and such, whereas Grace is,
I think the demand is there now where people would be willing to try, because we're so full at the Civic Center, people are starting to to go elsewhere and find
overflow,
different
yeah.
areas. So, businesses like the social sports, the premise of that was to, go have fun, play softball or whatever sport you signed up for, and then, they all go to a brewery or something afterwards. So, that's why they ideally went to the Civic Center, because they had access to all that. I think they went to the filling station initially, but I don't know if they still keep up with that,
But we just approved a budget to do a dog park, try a dog park, so.
Well,
Yeah.
and maybe Hammond ends up, maybe there's some sort of a field that ends
Yeah.
up over there,
Yeah.
and, they could swap or something, and,
I mean-
go through that process, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, I'm on board with either one,
I like our choice.
Mr. Chair, would you like me in the footnotes when this goes to the township board to put field redevelopment and then parentheses, dog park or all-purpose field?
Yeah, I think
and you
in our
can use it.
action plan, soccer field maybe wasn't the right
Yeah.
word to have in there.
Yeah, that's a
I think we
good,
just
uh,
referenced it as
2020.
a field, but it's just a field, so,
people will know that it's, it's potentially something else for like a dog park.
And then in the next month or two, Sam can bring back that information from the
Yeah.
different athletic groups.
yeah.
CCAPS doesn't need it.
Yeah, so far I've only heard from one, and it's the YMCA, and they do not have any additional need. They said that specifically they would have a need for an indoor facility in the area, but not an outdoor one. And I can continue to reach out.
Okay.
It seems to be that need has sort of dwindled a little bit because of all the other new and exciting soccer fields that have gone in, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd check with like social sports. There's another soccer group out there that plays out on the peninsula, I think. Then,
Can you use that for rugby?
it's big enough, I think it's big enough.
Because
But I think they got.
we have a rugby
themselves.
team
I
here.
think they play at the Silver Lake Park.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't know, just whatever the community wants out of that, whether it's a dog park or the field, one way or another, just, it's built.
I like the
think it's
best idea of a
perfect.
footnote in the budget, because we're not going to make that decision tonight.
But it makes sense. You got the whole family's out there doing something, playing on the playground, the other one's playing tennis or,
Maybe it's a way we engage the community, we give them, hey, do you want to see a dog park, or would you like to see this back into a developed field? And,
do you know how many people, almost everyone has a dog.
well,
And almost
I
everyone.
think we were in
has a dog
agreement
park.
of going forward with the dog park in that field, so if we're all wanting to go that direction still, we have, 300,000 budgeted for all of our projects going on at Grace, so,
And we can chat at, end of this year, the beginning of next year, what priorities to put on Grace McDonald projects for that 300,000. So we'll
Yeah.
come back to that discussion.
yeah, okay. Moving on to Arbutus Lake number 5. We had a large amount in
That's for the playground equipment?
2023 and 2024 for the initial phase 1 of the projects, and then based on best research, roughly about 125,000 to complete phase 2 with some, park features. And
My opinion is, I think that's a good
Yeah.
number, because, we're not putting a huge playground structure there. You want it to
Look,
be.
You only have so much
minimal.
parking
Yeah.
spaces anyways.
we just
So I
need
think
a,
125 would be plenty to get something there, and if there was something that'd be added on, that could be added on an additional year.
Zip line.
yeah.
Do that really big slide.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
You're not playing.
I think to get that project wrap up, phase 2, I think we'll stick with the 125,000. Then, yeah, I think that's everything.
So the two that I have that you don't have on your sheet right now are $1,000 for the M Parks membership, and $20,000 for trail mark.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Beth.
Yep, thank you.
So if you're comfortable with that budget, then you should make a motion, move it on to the board.
Yes. If there's no more, we don't need a vote, do,
Do you want a formal vote, like, to recommend approval?
yeah, a roll call vote?
I'll make a motion to approve the discussed budget from tonight with the additions that Beth took note of for M Parks and Trails. And, yeah.
Support?
All right. Motion made by Walsh, support by LaRose to approve the agenda with our discussed changes. And I guess we need to
Not,
do
not the,
budget.
Or-
to make the budget.
budget, yes.
The
Oh, did you need
meeting.
to add that 25,000 for the land acquisition still?
Oh, yes, thank you. I put it in the computer, but
Yeah.
you're right, it was not on the printed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you want to rephrase that?
yeah.
So, yeah, so I'll take back my motion and give a new one. I'll make a motion to approve the budget with the additions of the 25,000 land acquisition, the 20,000 for trails, and the 1,000 for M Parks.
Support.
All right. The approval of the agenda with the,
Approval of the budget.
sorry, excuse me. The approval of the budget, yeah. Motion made by Walsh, supported by Susan with the discussed changes. We need to
Roll call vote.
do a roll call vote to move this forward to the Board of Trustees.
Okay, Layton,
Yes.
Walsh,
Yes.
Andres,
Yes.
Hepmer,
Yes.
Szynski.
Yes.
LaRose, yes. And Reardon, absent.
Yeah. All right, yes. That passed, so the budget will now move to the Board of Trustees so, for their approval.
And that is at the next meeting.
Correct.
Date, which is.
And that is one where,
Approve their budget in October. No, they'll just get it.
That will review it.
Oh, review, okay, so that would be the 14th
Yep.
of October. Yeah, okay.
All right.
Is somebody going to that?
I signed up for it.
is that one of the,
Quarterly.
that's not one of the quarterly ones, is it?
Is that a quarterly?
I
Yeah.
think it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think I
October.
signed up for that one.
Yeah, we signed up for
We
it.
signed up for it on the 14th. Not in my calendar, let's fix that.
All right, yeah, my apologies for keep saying agenda when I'm on budget, but.
It's okay, it's Monday.
Yeah, it is. But if we're all done with that, we'll move on to public comment. I think Peter's the only one, if Peter has anything else to say. If not, all right.
I don't have necessarily a public comment, but I do want to express some gratitude for some kind community member who found my car keys on a trail at Holiday Woodlands and put them at the trailhead. You saved me a couple $100.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Cool.
All right. Moving on to upcoming meeting dates. The next regular meeting is October 21st, 2024. And then I think you guys have already discussed the Board of Trustees meeting for next month, and Susan and Ally are attending that.
And Sarah, you'll send out synopsis?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And for October 21st regular meeting, before we move on and adjourn the meeting, are there any people with,
I just want to make sure that we're noting that we're going to have Mr. Hoyt back at that meeting, and was that the
I
plan?
think you'll make a decision, but I don't know that he needs to be at the meeting
Yes.
for that.
yeah,
No. Okay.
And
You are
the time-
welcome, it's a public meeting, but
Yep.
And that will just be at our regular meeting in
Right.
October, because we're going to take care of some, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
So
So-
I will get with the geocache subcommittee to get a meeting scheduled so that you can do your review, to make your recommendation to the Parks Commission before that October meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And, yeah, I guess there's no issues with the 21st of people being in attendance, so.
Everybody will be here.
Okay. All right, and then, yeah, I think we have the geocache stuff figured out, where we'll discuss at the 21st, and have Peter back if he would like to join. And then, yeah, if there's nothing else, can adjourn the meeting at 8:05.